a good job. All right, man, what a terrible 24, 48 hours.
Yes, it's tragic day for Mississippi law enforcement, tragic day for the city of Bay St. Louis and Hancock County and those families. Just all the way around a very tragic situation.
WLOX are our friends, and they do a good job in our hometowns on the coast. But let me clip a little bit of this one from their report last night.
The woman accused of killing two Bay St. Louis police officers, Amy Anderson, a 43-year-old veterinarian from Ocean Springs. Investigators believe she shot the officers after an argument when the officers threatened to involve Child Protective Services. Bill Snyder has more tonight on how the deadly incident unfolded.
Central all units. Can I have anybody en route to Motel 6? Motel 6, we have in Bay St. Louis, we have 2 officers down.
2 officers down. A call to action that no law enforcement agencies want to hear go over the radio. But that's the chilling language they received at 4:30 this morning in the Bay.
A female heard 2 gunshots. They said one is breathing.
The 2 officers on the scene, 23-year-old Branden Estorffe and 34-year-old Stephen Robin, were told they encountered 43-year-old Amy Anderson sitting in this car with a minor female. You can see the broken glass in the driver's side passenger window. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation says Anderson shot both officers from inside the car.
The office had called us and told us that they heard 2 gunshots and 2 officers were down.
12-5 Central 99, get past Waveland and any other responding agencies around, please.
10-4.
Fellow officers from Bay St. Louis, Waveland, Diamond Head, Hancock County, and the Mississippi Highway Patrol and MBI all arrived to help their downed colleagues in blue. Officer Robin died on the scene. Estorffe died from his injuries a short time later. We're told Anderson died from a gunshot wound to the chest.
There's a lot more to that, but that's just a small clip of it. But, Commissioner, just a couple of things here. Were they both, as far as you know, were they both wearing vests?
I'm not 100% sure about that. Based upon the location of the wound, I don't know that the vest would have.
Okay, so that answers that question. Anything else to this Amy Anderson? What was the situation there? How did she wind up in that state with? And I'm guessing that was her daughter.
Yeah,
I'm catching you off guard on here, but more than likely.
I mean, more than likely it was.
Yeah.
And so, we're trying to protect the minor there a little bit and kind of keep her information out of the public. Obviously, a very traumatizing event for her as she was there for the entirety of it.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there was a call made from the Motel 6. Officers arrived. They actually encountered her first at our hotel room. She had a room there, and at some point she made her way to the car, and then that's when the shooting took place was from the car, and we're not sure if she committed suicide or if one of the officers' firearm had a round discharged and it might have struck her. We're waiting on the autopsy to be performed today. Because of the clothes she was wearing and the color, you couldn't visually tell if there was any gunshot residue on her clothes. And so just an awful day, very tragic.
No.
I think she was obviously having some issues going on. And,
for a child protective, was it the situation she was threatening the child? Is that why the authorities were called in the first place?
I think it was her behavior was, let's just say, out of the norm. She wasn't making a lot of sense in the things that she was saying, and the minor child was there. We have since learned that the older children were with their father. This child was from had another father. So I think the older children were with their dad, and there were some concerns there.
I got you. It always comes to mind with it. And these, my God, one 23-year-old, Branden was 23 years old, Stephen was only 34 years old. They have family. These people put themselves in harm's way when they are called. That's their job. And I sit here and think about all of the folks that give our law enforcement officers a tough time And it just aggravates the hell out of me when you see this happen every day across this country.
Well, it does me too, and I can tell you it's frustrating. One of the things I talked to one of our agents just this morning before I came on about what all had happened, and he was shocked just seeing it, how quick it occurred, just how quick everybody was shot and dead. And so these things happen fast. It's not a movie, and you're not dodging bullets and flying all over the place. I mean, and it happens so quick. And when individuals encounter law enforcement, and particularly if they have a firearm, and somebody ends up getting shot and the officer defends themselves because they're in fear of their own life because you have a gun and you point it towards them, these things turn deadly very, very quickly. And so I get really frustrated when folks attack law enforcement officers when individuals are walking around with guns and pointing them towards them and aren't complying, and it creates these volatile situations, and it's just very sad and heartbreaking.
It is profiling and instincts from the veteran officers that sometimes you just can't teach to people who haven't been on the force that long, but something doesn't smell right, something doesn't skew right, and you want to put the person in handcuffs for everybody's safety, and then maybe it's not explained the right way, or the person who's put in handcuffs wants act like a lawyer or something. It just barrels out of control. But
it's going to get to a point where who's going to do this job?
Yeah,
who are you going to find to do this job?
True. Yeah. Well, and on the other side too, we do have bad officers. Don't get me wrong, but they're so few and far between. You've had a trooper that had to. You want to discuss that? He was dismissed recently.
We've had several. Which one?
I don't know. We've had several. I know it was one. I didn't know it was several. But
well, I mean,
you might want to discuss that.
Well, we've got a large agency, and every now and then, officers do something that they shouldn't do, and as well as in any department. And what we've tried to do is create a culture of accountability. That if somebody does something they shouldn't, we're going to hold them accountable, either through a termination or a suspension or a resignation. And look, it's not just Highway Patrol or this division or that division. It's throughout the entire agency. If you're talking about the trooper up in North Mississippi, where I think there's been some complaints about his conduct. Right now, I believe he's on restricted duty, pending the outcome of an investigation from our internal affairs that's going to make